So in this session, I'm going to explain how we can print the message and the output and how we can get a message from the user in Java. First, let's see how we can print a message on the output. So in Java, if you want to print a message on the output, you need to use the object out, which is a static data member of class system. So system.out. And then based on what you need, you will use print, println, and printf. So print converts parameter to a string and prints it out. Println prints parameter and also prints a new line after that. Printf is exactly like what we had in C. Here you can see some very simple samples to show you how system.out.print works. So for example, we have system.out.print hello world. So this line of code will print this message on the output. You yourself can try these simple examples and see what can be the actual result. Or for example, we have system.out.println. So it will print the message and then after that we will print a new line after that. Or in the next part we have system.out.printf. We have a message and inside the message we are going to print the value of two variables, feet and ints. That's why we will use %d. D because both of these two variables are integers. So that's about system.out. You also can use plus operator when you want to print something. But you need to know that this plus operator can work differently. For example, if you use plus operator and after that you write down a string, this plus operator works like concatenation. Like what we have here, system.out.print, the number of states in the US is then plus 50. So this plus works for concatenation. So on the output, the message that you will see will be like that. The number of states in the US is 50. But if after plus you write the name of a variable, then it works differently. For example, what we have here, system.out.println, number of sites on a stop sign, then plus sites. So sites here is a variable, right? And we have used plus, then sites. So by writing down this way, you actually can print the value of this variable. Well, in this slide, I'm going to talk about printf. So I mentioned that printf is a way to print your message in Java. So it works actually like printf in C. The basic format for printf is, as you see here, system.out.printf format a string, then list of parameters. So format string is that message that will be inside the double quotation, right? So sometimes you want to print the value of some variables. This variable can be a character, can be integer or double. So you can print the value of variable with printf. But how? First, based on the type of that variable, you need to use one of these symbols that you see here, %d, %c, %s, or %f in format string. Exactly in that position that you are going to print that variable, that the value of that variable, right? So if that variable is going to be an integer, then you will use %d. If the type of that variable is a character, then you will use %c. If the value of the type of that variable is a string, you will use %s. If the type of that variable is floating point, then you will use %f, right? So here we can see some simple examples. For example, we have integer number of students be 25, char letter grade be A, double GPA be 3.95. These are three variables, right? So what, for example, I'm going to do is I'm going to print a message like that. There are 25 students, right? So I have a message. There are 25 students, and this 25 is the value of the variable number of students that I want to print in the middle of my message. So let's see how I can print this message. So I know that I should use printf. So system.out.printf. Open the parentheses. Then I need to write my string inside double quotation. There are students. How many students? 25 students, right? So the value of this variable will be between r and students. Since this variable is integer, I need to use %d. So there are %d students. And then I have the name of that variable, number of students. Right. Or, for example, in another example I have, Bobby's course grade was A, and his GPA is 3.95. So that's the message that I'm going to print. So in the middle of this message, I'm going to print some variables, right? The value of variables. What are those values? A and 3.9. So since the first one is A, I need to use %c because it's a character. Or the GPA of this person is a floating point type, right? So it's 3.95. So that's why here you can see I have used %f, right? There is a very simple point here for floating point types. So, and that's when you want, you can somehow specify how many decimal places you want to print, right? For example, in GPA, we have 3.95. So after dot, right, we have two numbers, 9 and 5. But, for example, sometimes we have more floating type numbers, right? So in these cases, you can specify how many number after the floating point be printed. So you see here, I have in the last line, GPA is a double variable with value 3.275, and pi is again a double variable with value 3.1415. So I can print just two values after the floating point for GPA, or three values after three numbers after floating points in pi, right? But how? By specifying that number between f and percent. So I will write down percent dot that number here, for example, for GPA is 2, then f. Or for example, for pi, percent dot that number, which here is 3, then f. So that's why for GPA I will see 3.28, and for pi I will see 3.142, right? So now let's see how you can receive an input from the user. So you need to use the class scanner, right? So in order to use this class, you need to import java.util.scanner. And after that, you need to create a scanner object and pass in system.in into the scanner. Exactly like what we have here in this example. So first, because I want to use the scanner in order to receive input from user, I will import java.util.scanner. Then I will create an object, right, from scanner. So scanner input equals new scanner system.in. And after that, by writing down this line of code, now I can receive the data from keyboard, right? And I can save them based on their types in as a value for my variables. For example, int x be input dot next int, right? Or double y be input dot next double, or string s be input dot next, right? So this is very simple example. Okay, let's see some very simple examples for printing, right? First, what we need to import is import java.util.scanner in the beginning of the program, then I can use system.out, right? For example, system.out.print, that's capital, system.out.print 5, right? So you see, I was able to print this string in the output. Or system.out.print, for example, 3, right? Or system.out.println. This one is println, so it's going to print the message and it print a new line, right? So let's see how we can do that. Println, for example, Houston, we've spotted, for example, a message like hello world. So as you see, if I write system.out.print 2, as you see here, 2 has been printed in the next line, and the reason is println, print the message, and we'll go to the next line, right? So the next part will be printed in the next line. So let's, for example, see system.out.println 4, for example. Right. So let's run the code and you see that because of this we have the message in the next line, right? So I have used backslash and then the message and that's why I see the message in the next line, right? In slides, I showed you that we have an operation plus and it works differently, right? It can be used for concatenation. So let's see how it actually works. System.out.println, for example, hello world, and then plus everything is perfect. So let's see what is the result. So as you see here, by using this operation, plus operation, we were able to concatenate these two strings, right? So that's how this concatenation works. Or if I write down, for example, I have for example, the number of students here are, for example, 100, right? You can write them plus and then 100, right? So here plus auto convert 100 to string and concatenate this string to this string. Let's see the result. So you see the number of students here are 100, right? Let's define a variable, for example, int, like time, be 10, right? And then system.out.println. So the time here, for example, I want to print the time here is 10, right? And time 2 be, for example, 9. 1 and time 2. So the time here is 10. I want to say it's 10, so plus time 1, then plus to concatenate the next string into this string. The time here is 10, and the time there is plus to concatenate time 2. So the time here is 10, and the time there is 9, right? Let's see one other example. For example, system.out.println 23 and 56 concatenated plus 23 plus 56. Let's see what would be the result. So you see, this string will be printed and these parts will be concatenated to these parts, right? What if 23 and 56 For example, added 23 plus 56. So as you see here, since I've put 23 plus 56 inside the parentheses, right, this plus operation works for plus, right? Works for adding these two numbers. So 23 plus 56, since are inside the parentheses, so the plus operator works for adding these two numbers. And then this plus operator works for concatenation, right? So here now that you saw so many examples for printing, so let's see some simple examples for receiving input from user. So again, so you need to first import Java util scanner, right? And then you need to create an object scanner sb new scanner system dot in, right? So I want to say to the user system.out.print, and the user, as the user enter a value. So user is going to enter a value and I'm going to save this value inside a variable. Int x b, for example, first I will define this variable to be integer, then here xb s dot next int, right? And I'm going to print the value of this variable. So here it should be, for example, x. So enter a value, and me as a user, I'm going to enter, for example, 23. So as you see, this 23 will be printed in the output. So system.out.println, I will see 23, right?